Our speaker will share her experience, strength, and hope with us for approximately 45 minutes. We ask out of respect for our speaker to please remain seated until she is finished. It is my great pleasure this evening to introduce our speaker, Lavon. Let's give her a hand.
Hi, my name's Lavon. I'm an alcoholic. And Christy said Groundhog Day. For those of you who have seen the movie, I spoke Wednesday, so it's like Groundhog Day. I want to thank Linda for the invitation. It's always, it is a privilege and it is an honor and it is nerve-wracking. But other than that, thank you, Linda. And I guess I'll start my story. I was standing in the middle of my front yard with my mom and dad, and way up the street, there was a guy walking toward us. My mother turned to my father and she said, "He's drunk." And I thought, who's drunk? And I'm looking. Guy had to walk quite a bit more, and I finally realized it's my grandfather. And he was drunk, and his ass did go on the Greyhound bus the next day back to Missouri. I mention that because he had a horrific, story. I'm not here to tell his story, except that he did die drunk. He set himself on fire. He was smoking a cigarette out in an old abandoned car, dropped it between his legs, and when he woke up, like his clothes and everything were on fire, he rolled out into some water, but they still had to amputate one of his legs, and he just had all kinds of issues after that and didn't last too long. Now, I didn't learn anything from that. Absolutely nothing. The thing I love about us alcoholics, the book says, the inability of the alcoholic to see himself as he really is struck my brain, because I would defend my right to drink viciously and vehemently, and I really believed that people who didn't drink just didn't know what they were doing. So I did make it. About the only significant thing that happened to me that you need to know about is I was an only child, and I got here alcoholic and only child, self-centered to the max. And I came out of a good Baptist home. There was no drinking in my home. And I didn't drink when I was in school. My dad gave me a car and a lot of nice things, and I didn't want to lose them because he was pretty strict. So I didn't drink at the parties. So I didn't drink until I, came to Los Angeles. But I want to tell you, before I get too far along, that we were good Baptist. I mean, we went to church and to Sunday school and to Wednesday night prayer meeting and any other thing that the Baptist church was doing. And it was pretty weird. I don't know why, but I did not have the ability to sort things out. All I knew is that I thought I was hearing a lot of bullshit. And I'm just a little kid, in Missouri, and this is before I was 9 years old. And I belonged to this group called the Sunbeams for Jesus. And I thought, oh my God, I hope nobody at school finds out. Because I knew it was going to be embarrassing, Who wants to be a Sunbeam for Jesus? And then we'd go to Sunday school downstairs. And it was just lovely. They told little Bible stories, and we sang Jesus Loves All the Little Children. And then we went upstairs to the Bible Belt preacher who told us we were going to burn in hell for everlasting life. I mean, I was like, that guy scared the crap out of me. I would look over at my cousins, though. Now, my cousins seemed to have a different attitude about this. They would be over there, just coloring away, not paying any attention. I'm thinking, don't they know we're going to burn in hell? Why aren't they paying attention? I just couldn't get this whole thing. And every negative emotion you could think of, anger, uh, fear, all of that, all the bad emotions, that's what the church gave me. At 15, I said, I'm not going anymore. And I dug my heels in, which I was not prone to do with my dad. But they were really good. They were really cool. They understood that there was no point in forcing me. And so I didn't go back to church after that. I graduated high school here in Arizona, down in a little flaky town called Florence. Some of you know about it. And I left there when I was 18, and I went to Los Angeles to go to school. And I'm telling you, I think I barely got into the dorm until people were saying, there's a frat party tonight, there's a rush, there's this, there's that. And, the parents weren't there to hear about all this. And so I decided I'd have a drink. And, the profound thing that happens to an alcoholic when they drink, it's just, at first it's fabulous. I mean, I remember there was a certain point in my drinking when I would absolutely feel fabulous. I mean, it's like I had spurs on going through the bar doors. It's like I was better than everybody else. I was smarter than everybody else. In fact, the rest of you just really were beneath me. I love to drink. But my problem was when I reached that perfect point, I didn't have any way to stop. That perfect point disappeared so quickly into drinking myself sick and insane and capable. Oh my God, the Baptists would have been rolling in the aisles, speaking in tongues, which they don't do. But I was a blackout drinker right away. I found the bars when I was in Los Angeles, and I found the bars that I wanted, where the women were, and where the pool tournaments were, and where the softball tournaments were, and all the things, and then coming to the bar and just getting as drunk as you could get. I had unfortunate things happen to me. They didn't deter me one bit. I could always think of a rational reason besides drinking when something bad would happen. And by that I mean, I flunked out of graduate school. I didn't think it was my fault. I knew whose fault it was. It was my girlfriend. She always wanted to go to the bar. I didn't have time to study. Straight F's. Now, I made it through college as far as my bachelor's degree. It's not hard. All you got to do is cheat. And I did. And I still had it together enough to do that proficiently. But I put a little time in there before I went to graduate school. And when I tried to get that master's degree, they said, out, out. I was familiar with those words when I walked in bars a lot of times. They said, out, out, right now. And I go, okay, there's lots of bars in L.A. And I didn't even have to find out why they were throwing me out. I didn't care. So the other thing that started happening is, 8 o'clock is so early in the morning. I don't know why people go to work at 8 o'clock in the morning. And I couldn't do it very well. And they would fire me. And I don't even think they cared if I drank or didn't drink. They just know I didn't show up a lot, I don't think this one job I had, I know I never made it 5 days in a week. Ever. Never. And of course, if you missed one day, you got to make it look good because you told them you had the flu, so you miss another day. And, it just goes on. And they just are so unhappy about that. I had to trade friends a lot. I was told a lot of hearsay. When you listen to somebody from one of these podiums up here, you're hearing hearsay. because I don't remember a lot of the things. So a lot of it was told to me. And boy, I'm telling you, they love to tell you, don't they? Why did you do such and such last night? Well, I'm thinking to myself, I don't know that I even did that. Doesn't sound like anything I would do. And that's the way we lead our lives. I ripped and tore in Los Angeles up and down those freeways because I was a bar drinker. I wanted to go where the excitement was. And never got a DUI. Never did. And like I said, I drank in bars for many years. Every damn night I was in there. And I left in a blackout. I'd have to go on the Easter egg hunt in the morning to find my car. And you know, I learned something real fast too. If you can't find your car, don't call the police for assistance. Because they get real mad whenever they find out that your car is parked a block from your garage. And so I learned a lot of things during all of that, but nothing that did me any good. I just kept going downhill. I did get this job. I got an alcoholic's dream job. I got a job where I could go in as late as 2 o'clock in the afternoon, as long as I could get my hours put in. That was their theory. Well, hell, after most of them left, I was gone. I didn't stay until put in those hours, and especially after I was there a long time. I had a parking place down in the garage. From my office, I'd go down, as soon as the last person that would possibly check on me, I was gone when they were gone. I had a lot of relationships. The first the first one was, I just played cards with the people next door and got drunk every Friday and Saturday because I was young then, By the second one, I'm beginning to pick up speed. I remember one time I was standing at the bar. Another tip I learned was don't sit on a bar stool, because if somebody knocks you off the bar stool, your foot could hook inside that little ring and you fall on your face. So I didn't do that. I didn't. And so I'd have one foot on there. And my friend over here, Audie, she had one foot on the other side. And we were talking about something important. And my girlfriend came in, and she had this big paper bag. And she slammed it up on the seat. And blood started running all over the place. She says, "Here, you cook this." And she shot out of the bar. And I felt lucky because her other girlfriend, I knew that she had come in the bar and threw all of her clothes in the bathroom. They went everywhere. So, anyway, and by the way, I was very, some people are very promiscuous when they're out there. I wasn't. I would break up with my girlfriend as soon as I found somebody else that I was interested in. I had to keep a clear head about that. Elizabeth Taylor, one time they asked her, they said, "How come you've been married so many times?" And she said, "Well, because if I slept with them, I had to marry them." And of course that wasn't true either, but that is about where I was. So the third one, what was interesting about that relationship is for some reason, she got a lot of pleasure out of slapping the hell out of me. And, this fighting went on, and finally I began to return it a little bit. And so what happened was one time we came home from the beach and drunk, of course, after we went to the beach. And she starts this stuff with me, and I'm trying to pack because I'm leaving her. And she grabs me, by the back of the hair and slams me up against a counter. I saw stars. I have a clear understanding of manslaughter. I went out of my mind. I don't know, like I said, it was like a rhythm thing. She was saying something, and I'd say, "Say it again, bitch." And she would say it again. And I'd hit her head on the floor. And then I'd say, "Say it again, bitch." by God, she'd do it again. And I am in this rhythm. I was just beating her and beating her. And finally, this friend of mine came, walked in the house, thank God. I mean, I'm the luckiest son of a bitch walking around. I'm telling you, I could have been in prison so many times. She came in, she put her hand on my shoulders, and she said, and as soon as she did, I came out of it, this thing I was doing. But come to find out, I'd hurt her pretty bad because she had to have surgery and she lost a lot of her equilibrium, and so she had to walk with a cane for the rest of her life just because of balance. And when you do that stuff, you feel like such a chicken shit. You got to avoid that, even thinking about it. And I could avoid thinking about a lot of things. When I got here and they told me to do an inventory, I don't even know if she made the list. I mean, I wasn't in touch with all of this crap that I was doing. Let's see, when we got to the fourth one, she was exciting now. 5 times she got a DUI in 3 years. But in those days, they didn't have the computer, see? And she'd go to court, and I'd say, well, young lady, since it's your first time here, and I'm thinking, first time here? She just kept getting away with it. But she was unemployable. I mean, she pretended sometimes to drive a school bus. She had a friend called up one day, and he said, I won't be into work today. He said, and he told my girlfriend, he said, I can't find my bus. I went to a bar, and I can't remember where I parked the bus because I kept bar hopping. He missed 3 days' work. And then he cheerfully called one evening and said, I found my bus. And my girlfriend, she didn't care. She would pull her bus right in front of a bar and get out and start drinking. So you people that have children, beware. Bus drivers like to drink. I came to Alcoholics Anonymous with my best friend on one side of me, and this girlfriend that got all the drunk driving. Both of them been in and out of jail. I had to spend so much time getting bail and going to the, I know bailiffs better than anybody that's been in jail. So I'm sitting there, and I'm thinking, yeah, they need to do something. Neither one of them can hold a job. Neither one of them, can stay out of jail, and they need to do something. And I'm going to tell you something. If you're sitting in this room today, you are so screwed. Because even if you go out and drink and do carry on, you are going to remember us. Because there is no way I could escape the fact that I was an alcoholic. I was relating like you wouldn't believe. And I knew that I was hearing truth. Truth. It wasn't like my mother standing over me with this pitiful look saying, Lavon, why do you drink so much? And I'm powerless over that question. I got no answer for that question to my mother, who I love and who I know has had to put up with alcoholism in her family all her life. So I just quit going home, and I would call once in a while, and that relationship. My parents were very savvy people. I mean, they weren't chasing me around trying to get me sober. They were just waiting to see what happened. So I'd like to tell you I got sober then, but I didn't. I drank another 10 years. And that 10 years, I seemed to be reaching even further bottoms. And I seemed to be losing friends all the time. And my behavior was very bizarre when I drank. I had one friend, every time I'd get drunk, I'd try to run over him with a car. And about the third time, I called him up one day, and I said, Dale, you going to the bar tonight? Lavon, don't call me again. Don't come to my house. I don't want to see you ever again. And I said, why? He said, because you're trying to kill me. I said, oh, okay. But I did a lot of crazy things that a good Baptist doesn't do. Now I'm going to run to my last relationship just so we can get through this. And by the way, I always say this when I pitch. I always like to thank the heterosexuals for not letting me get married, because I could never afford the alimony of 8 wives. So I'm grateful. So my last girlfriend I lived with for 5 years. And it started out really good. I mean, we had money. She was a hooker. And we went to Vegas. We were going to Vegas all the time, and we would take these vacations that were, I mean, I really loved it. And she had a lot of, as far as I knew, she had a lot of class. She seemed to know all about crystal and jewels. And I mean, she taught me a lot, because I was just from a little bitty old town. I didn't know shit, you know. But she did. And it was an okay relationship, except that she'd get mad at me. And she moved out all of her furniture and everything 3 times. And the 3rd time she didn't come back. So, but we had an adventurous life. And finally one night, I'm going to skip one of my awakenings. I'm going to go right to the last one, which was, I woke up one morning. I slid out of bed in a sheet of blood, and I thought, oh my God, I've killed someone. And then it got worse, because there was nobody there, so I meant I had killed myself. And then I realized, you know, I was just hemorrhaging. And and so for a second time, I called this friend that I used to drink with, who now had 6 years of sobriety. And she came over, and I was vibrating like a son of a gun, and I was scared to death. And you know how, at least in the old days, you know, we didn't have these detox centers you could just run over and dump somebody in. And so they'd give you a shot, you know, make sure you didn't go into DTs. But this one didn't. She gave me orange juice and honey. Do you know how disgusting that is when you're hungover? Ugh! But anyway, I didn't have DTs, so I guess it worked. And I did have DTs, you know, when I was drinking. I remember, or when I would stop drinking, you know, I used to hear voices in the wall. I don't know if you guys have ever done that. And I was convinced that people from outer space were trying to reach me and give me a message. And I would strain in my drunkenness to hear. I never could quite make it out. And somewhere along the line at the end of my drinking, don't ask me where this came from, okay? I'm just telling you, this is what happened. I began to believe that I was going to be the world's next great spiritual leader. I was going to replace Billy Graham. Now, it hasn't happened yet, but I still got a little time. So, you know, all this crazy thinking and the fear and the trying to dodge this one and dodge that one, you know, it's just the same old drunk-a-log, you know, different day. I heard a woman say one time, which I really loved. She said, if I didn't do what you did, it's because I was too busy doing what I did. So don't compare your drunk-a-log to anybody else's drunk-a-log. Drunk is drunk and crazy is crazy, and that's who we are. That was my higher power for 20 years. So I go, I get this doctor who says, didn't you know you had these? And I had these big fibroid tumors, you know, and they were pushing against some other organ. And so that resulted in my trying to figure out why she didn't know that I didn't know what was going on with my body. I drink a little, but I didn't tell her that. But this alcoholic that took me to the doctor, she told the doctor. She said she drinks. And I'm looking at her like, what are you telling the doctor that for, you know? Because she didn't want the doctor to prescribe any, you know, pills or anything for me. So I wound up in the hospital. I had surgery. I was in there 5 days, and I think that allowed me to detox. Well, in that day, you know, those old days, they cut you open and, you know, all this stuff. And they had to anyway because of the tumors. So anyway, I recovered in her home. And one morning I woke up, and there was a book on the shelf called I'll Quit Tomorrow. And I pulled that off the shelf, and it's there in bed, and I'm reading. And I wanted to know where I was, and I found myself in chronic alcoholism. And I had again, another awakening, a little glimpse of who I was. And I was so terrified of, whatever next chapter was going to be. She got up, and I said, I want to go to a meeting with you. Oh, you know how we are. She was just dancing like, okay, and I'm thinking, oh, Christ, But it's, you get to that point where you just will do anything. That's when you're ready. When you're out of ideas and you're ready to have somebody give you a little guidance, and you're willing, and you're just a teeny bit honest and open-minded, you're going to find everything. You're going to find your higher power. You're going to find sobriety. Those three things is all you need. I was surrendered. I had already worked the first half of the first step and didn't even know it when I got here. I did have a great time with this sponsor. I loved her. She died in 2012, but she was my sponsor up until then. And she was great. I mean, when I got this job that I was on, they didn't realize, I guess, that I got sober or something, and they were trying to get rid of me, and they were on the verge. They gave me a contract to sign, which they'd never done. I knew that's the end right there. Because that's the way they always got rid of people. They wouldn't renew your contract. So, 10 months sober, I'm going to beat him to the punch, right? So I quit. And I've got tumors or cysts, in my breast. Now, you know how we alcoholics are, at least this alcoholic. If I wake up and I got a cold, give me 10 minutes to think about it, and I got COVID-19, or I got cancer, or I got something really bad. If somebody tells me the boss wants to see me, I got to go to the bathroom and try to figure out what he wants. If a lover leaves me, I know I'm going to be alone forever and ever and ever. That's the way this brain thinks. This sponsor began to teach me all of the really important things, the steps, of course, but she went further. She taught me the traditions. She helped teach me how to work with another alcoholic. And when I got there, even though I volunteered, I still, if there was a greeter on the door at a meeting, I would leave. I wouldn't go in. I don't want anybody touching me. I don't want anybody talking to me, And nobody even had COVID-19 then. So one day, I don't know how much sobriety I had, a couple months probably. Anyway, she says to me, go over there and talk to that newcomer after the meeting. And I said, and say what? She says, well, just tell him welcome to Alcoholics Anonymous, or I hope I see you here next week. So I said, okay. And I'm thinking to myself, fuck him. Let him find his own sobriety. That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm doing. And then she'd want to go down to the clubhouse. We had cups to wash and tables to wash down. She'd say, let's go down early and wash tables and cups. And I'm like, God, now she's going to teach me housekeeping, So it was just this constant thing of her asking me to do things that I didn't want to do. I will tell you that one day she looked me right in the eye and she said, you are the most self-centered human being I have ever met. And I thought, why would she say that? I'm a good person. I'm a giving person. When it's convenient. And I'm going to look good. That's when. She taught me so many things that, to be able to understand the traditions and how important they are. To really understand them. To be able to learn all of the things about Alcoholics Anonymous. This organization is the greatest thing that ever happened to an alcoholic. And yet we come in and we look around and we go, I don't like that guy. That guy's stupid. We had one guy's name was Pete. And he'd always say, my name's Pete. I'm an alcoholic. And I come here for the medicine of my disease. And I'd think, you do have a disease, I believe. And, you know, he just aggravated me. And I couldn't understand what he was talking about. And that worried me because I thought I had brain damage. I leaned over to my sponsor and I said, what is he talking about? She says, nobody knows. So, you know, I went around doubting myself all the time, which was a good thing. You know, it allowed me to listen and to do something somebody else's way. Because my way, I thought, see, with this genius brain, how could I not figure these things out? Well, I since learned I'm not a genius. And I also came in a very sick person. And I didn't know it. I did not know that the things that I thought were not, you know, not right. But I learned these things through the wheel, step 4 through 9. When you get in that wheel, you will find out about yourself. And some of it ain't good, but in the long, if you play the long game, you learn about yourself. You learn that your head is filled. My head was filled with things that weren't true. When something happens in front of me, I don't know, like he gets up and does a jig, I'm going to go in my head and I'm going to find out what I know about that. I'm going to pull fact A, fact B, fact C. A's not even true, B's only half true, and C we're not sure, but it might be true. How do you get a good conclusion whenever you're drawing from a brain that's filled with misinformation? But boy, that's hard. That's hard to see. It took me time to see that I wasn't too clear. I want you to know that I did go back to college and I got my master's degree. I've been in the same relationship for 29 years. I'm old, huh? I got sober October 10th, 1981. So if I don't take a drink between now and March 10th or October 10th, I'll have 39 years. And like they say, you know, you just have to not drink and live. Don't die. I got this job. I got to tell you about this job. Yeah, I got time. So I had these cysts, right? I told you. I'm dying. And I ran into this guy that I knew from years ago. And he goes, how are you? Blah, blah, blah. What are you doing? Blah, blah, blah. I don't work there anymore, I said. He says, you should come down to Hughes Helicopter Company. He said, it's a great place to work. He was an engineer there. And I'm like, yeah, I'll do that. So, but you know, when we alcoholics, at least this alcoholic for sure, when I'm trying to think and obsess over something, I don't want to be bothered with a bunch of other stuff, like a job. So, but he was persistent. Finally, he called me up and he said, Lavon, he said, I set up an interview for you. You have an appointment on Friday at 2 o'clock or whatever, and you asked for this person. And I thought, is this guy crazy? I got to get him off my back. So I went. She had a couple of pages there of questions. She starts down the line, and she said, have you ever used IDMS? And, no. Are you familiar with the CICS environment? No. And this keeps going on, right? Finally, it's getting embarrassing, so she pushes the papers off to the side, and she says to me, well, tell me what you have done. So I spun my alcoholic story without the alcoholism, and I left there, and I said, well, that was embarrassing. But you know, in a few days, I got a call from her. She says, I wanted to give you a call. This is Mary Ann Oliva from the Hughes Helicopter Company. And she said, I want to hire you. She said, but HR has to make the offer, and they're about a week and a half behind. I thought, is she drunk? You know. But you know what? I went to work there, and I didn't even know what was going on. I'd go sit in these meetings. They'd send me these meetings, and they're talking about whip and I don't know, all these manufacturing terms. I'd never worked in manufacturing. I didn't know what the hell they were talking about. So finally, I just kept surviving. I don't know how. And, well, it helped. I got into a relationship with her. It gets worse. She not only was my boss, she was married. Yeah. I tell everybody, if you want to do some shit, do it in your first year. You can get away with it if you are sincerely trying to stay sober and you're doing what your sponsor says. I talk to my sponsor, about these things, and I said, she is so hot. And my sponsor said, well, whatever blows your skirts up. And I thought, what happened to don't get in a relationship in your first year? But, that is true, because if you're sick, now I'm not saying you newcomers are sick. I'm not saying that. But if you think maybe you are, I will tell you that a sick person attracts sick. Sick attracts sick. You will not get the lover of your life. You will not get the one. You will get a married woman who's an alcoholic and a pillhead that killed herself, okay? That's who you get, even though she was brilliant. She was brilliant. So, let's see. I hung around there, and one day she comes in, because I'm feeling pretty good. I know there ain't nothing I can do wrong to get fired. She comes in and says, I'm quitting. I said, what? She says, we're moving to, I don't know, someplace. I don't even remember. Oregon, I think. And and she says, and the person that she reported to said that he thought that I should get the job because I had a master's degree by this time. And I had been in management at different times. So I said, I'm just beginning to kind of know what's going on here. I said, you got 24 people in this department to choose from. She goes, I know, but Begley wants you. So I said, well, wow. I said, the other people are going to be pretty resentful about that. She says, nope, we had a meeting without you. And I asked them, and everybody's good with it. I thought, holy crap. Now, I learned so much about management that tour of duty. I learned that if you let people if you hire the right people and you let them do their job, you're going to be a great manager. But if you're going to hang over them all the time, they're going to hate your guts, and they're going to do as little as possible. I learned truly, these people, they knew their jobs. I had one guy, he was head of the training department, and we'd get the government come in, and either he or Mary Ann, my boss, would give these presentations to him. And so when she was gone, that left just him. I said, listen, James, I said, you know how you're always someplace and nobody can find you? And he kind of grinned, and I said, every time, if you want me to take this job, every time you leave, you go someplace, you come into my office. I said, if I've got somebody in there, just lean around on the whiteboard and write the number where I can reach you. And he did that. I mean, they all just carried me. And it was because of this program. Because in this program, I learned to interact with people differently, to give them respect, to give them, not to be such a, well, I was humbled by the fact that I couldn't do it myself. That's the truth of it. So anyway, I could talk a lot about that, but I won't. But I know why I was hired, or at least I think so. When you go for a job interview, you don't have to be scared in this program, because God's going to give you the job that he wants you to have. And that's why I got this job, because McDonnell Douglas came in and bought them and transferred the whole company to Mesa, Arizona. My parents lived up in Payson, and my dad was ill, and he was getting sicker and sicker. My mother never worked a day in her life, didn't even know how to balance a checkbook. My mother needed me. And I'm an only child. And I believe that's why I got that job. I believe the whole thing, because it flowed right along the timeline. I worked there until that management began to tip the company upside down, and then Boeing came in and bought them. So I worked for 3 companies and barely moved my desk. And I worked 26 years and retired from Boeing in 2008. And I'm up here with you guys, just loving it. I'm looking around the room. I don't know all of you, of course. I know some of you, and I love you that I see. And this little posse over here. I mean, the four of us are, I think we're getting ready to have a four-way because we're just almost inseparable. Inseparable. Find a sponsor that you trust, that you believe. I'm telling you what I did. You believe will never say anything to hurt you deliberately. Find a sponsor that understands this program. Find a sponsor, I don't care how dumb they are, you're really not turning your life over to them. You're turning it over to your higher power to be. God bless you all. Thank you.
Let's give Lavon another hand. Come on, man.